We're delighted to have you here. We'd love you just to sit back, relax, bring your cuppa, and listen to the conversations that we have amongst ourselves and with our invited guests.
I just told my newsletter subscribers actually this last week as I've been brainstorming some new stories, and I'm like, there's so much history in one decade. I'm just like, there's just so many stories to tell, so much history that happened that I'm like, yeah, there's lots more stories because I have ideas.
Yeah. And I think it's really great to be able to tell those stories from a different perspective. So it's like you can tell it from an Italian background, but then you also then can tell the same story from a Swedish background. And actually the experiences, depending on what the kind of cultural context was, would have been radically different. And even the understanding of what people are going through and how they process it and so on is always going to be, it's going to be quite different depending on, you know, kind of what someone's background is and culture and even what their kind of church history is. Like, it's really quite interesting to pull all that together and say, you know, to the modern reader, we've not always thought the way that we think now. We don't always speak the way that we think now. You know, it's like, you know, writing stories set in South Africa, you have to be quite careful. The language that we use now is not the language that was used at the turn of last century. And it's quite a balancing act, you know, as historical fiction, you want to be accurate for the time. But at the same time, it's like, how do you say some things that now it's just not the right thing to say? I mean, if you come across any of those sorts of examples when you've been taking kind of your Italian, Swedish background and saying, I really can't say some of those things.
So the Italians at the time were highly, like, part of U.S. immigration law that was set in the 1920s was specifically to anti-Italian. It was covertly designed not to be that specific, but that's who they were targeting. They were trying to keep Italians out because Italians were darker skinned. They weren't white enough, and they weren't Protestant enough. So, and then because of the crime families, they just linked all darker skinned, darker haired people together and wanted them all out. And then the Jewish population as well, that so linked a little bit in. So it was kind of that whole Mediterranean region. They just wanted none of them here. So there was a lot of prejudice. And I mentioned this a little bit in one of my books. The largest mass lynching in America was actually killed 11 Italians. It wasn't African Americans at the time. More of them were, you know, murdered. But as a mass event all at once, it was actually Italians in Louisiana, New Orleans in the late 1800s. This group of Italians were acquitted. They were found innocent and the people didn't agree. And so they broke into the jail, dragged them out.
Wow.
Yeah. So and that's actually what started Columbus Day. Columbus Day here in America was a pat the Italians on the head and say, oh, we're sorry, so we're going to give you a holiday about a guy who actually was from Genoa. He was born in Genoa, but he sailed from Spain and never actually landed on the continental United States. So we're going to give you a holiday about him because he's white enough or something, just to appease you because we did this really bad thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's what Columbus Day is all about.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, that's quite good. Potted history of a public holiday in America. I like that. All the Americans listening are going like, is that really what it is?
It's really hilarious now because Italians are so defensive of it because it's not a culturally acceptable. It's got its issues. But Italians are so protective of it, and that's why, because they've been told it's for them.
It's your holiday. Yeah.
I mean, it was, but it's not. And so some Italians are actually starting to push for them to change who we celebrate that day to make it like Italian Heritage Day, just with someone who actually is worth celebrating as an Italian, who's actually Italian American.
Oh, wow. So that's kind of something you do have to tread a bit carefully when you're writing, I can imagine.
So I think in a weird, and I mentioned this actually in one of my books that I reference a little bit of that history in, and how I don't shy away from the racial issues because I write so much immigrant fiction, and immigrants have never really been well accepted in America. For the plaque on our Statue of Liberty that says we welcome the poor and the masses and give us your weak and your needy. For all of that, all those words, if you aren't the right type of immigrant, they didn't want you. And as someone whose family fell into the we don't want you, it's given me a angle in my stories that I tap because of the color of my skin. Growing up in Chicago, I know what it feels like to have, to be pulled over for the way I look.
Wow.
And
Sure.
profiled. Like, and I look pretty white, but get me in the summer, sun, change, but black hair is enough. I actually was told once that there's no such thing as black hair. It's only brown, red, and blonde. Like,
oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay, sure, whatever you say.
I'm just saying things. It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, tell half of the population of Scotland that there's no such thing as black hair.
It's like, I'm not sure what rock you're living under, but okay. But I there's this in between, like, especially in America concept, and I don't know, like, in South Africa if you experience this as well, but everything's very black and white, literally color of our skin, black and white. But there's this in between where you're not black enough, you're not white enough, that's the space that I hone in on in my books. And because that is a feeling I have felt, it's a vulnerability I tap into because I know I'm not the only one that doesn't feel enough.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter, for me, it has that immigrant feeling. But how often do we not feel enough as women, as mothers, as in our career, as writers?
Yeah.
Like, I think it's a human connection piece. And, I dive into it based on what I feel. But I think it's a universal feeling that
and I think you almost, the nice thing about a story, you don't have to say that.
Exactly.
It's like readers identify with the heart behind the story, even without them maybe realizing that that's kind of what they're identifying with. But even it's like, well, why do I like Danielle's books? I like the struggles that people go through and that they, that they're resolved and that there's elements of faith. And it's like in that, what they're hearing is actually the heart of, but we all belong and we all are cherished and we've all got place and we've all got purpose. But it's like if you just were to write that straight, it's like, oh yeah, who's going to listen to it?
Of course. Perfectly said, Anna. Thank you.
And the way you write it as well makes it very accessible because you don't write it as I've got a point to prove and I need to tell you this. It's so natural and it's so, that's what some people have to deal with and that's what they had to deal with. But that's actually quite sad because I've been reading like some of the books and you think, oh, so that happened back in the 90s. But to know that's still part of the story, that's just really sad. But you do it in such a gentle way that it brings it to light, but it's not at all like in your face.
One of my favorite Bible stories is the story of Nathan confronting David after his sin with Bathsheba, and how Nathan was willing to share a story with David. He never actually really accused David
He didn't
of anything.
point the finger.
Right. He just told David a story, and David put it together because I love that concept of how I can just tell a story, and it's a story. Whether there's a lot of different things that a reader could take from a story, but I leave that in God's hands, in their hands, in their soul. Like there's a quote that talks about how an author is not finished with her story until it is read. Because the reader's experience in reading the story is what actually finishes the story. And I love this. Like I can tell a story and what someone takes from it is the finishing of the story and letting it do its work. Whatever that is. Maybe it's just a safe place for a reader to escape to. That is perfect. Or maybe it's a deep spiritual lesson that they just needed to hear in that exact moment.
Yeah,
I like that.
that's really good.
Yeah. So do you have a particular Bible verse or scripture or word that you feel kind of frames all your work and what you do? Or
It's Micah 6:8, I think it is. It's what does the Lord require of you? To love mercy, to execute justice, and to walk humbly with your Lord. And this combination of walking humbly as an author is, sometimes you mean, I just wrote a book. To walk, there's almost an element of pride in that too. Like pride is a
Yeah,
funny thing. Like humility is a funny thing. Like false
yeah,
humility is false for a reason. Like to walk humbly, but then the two, to hold both mercy and justice close. Especially as a mystery suspense author, like the bad guy gets it in the end. Like
yeah,
that's the justice side. But then the
Yeah.
mercy side is that welcoming feeling that I want my readers to feel. Like the happily ever after, justice is served. There is completion. The Lord is still on the throne, no matter what
yeah,
horrible things happen. And yet, you know what? Jesus loves you.
yeah,
And that those things can coexist together. And
yeah.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
also that the bad guy gets his just desserts, but at the same time, there's a reason why he's a bad guy in the first place. I think
Exactly.
you've done that in quite a few of the books of yours that I've read, where you've actually explored why has the bad guy become the bad guy,
Mhm.
and I think that also helps us just to kind of see, oh, you know what? There's always someone that we're having a fight with or that we don't agree with, but actually sometimes we've just got to do the whole thing of stepping into somebody else's shoes and realize, well,
Mhm.
actually, there's circumstances that have got them to that point too. And I might not agree with them and they might not be right or whatever, but there's still a process that person has gone through in order to get to being the bad guy. And I think sometimes it's quite nice to have a bad guy who's got real, like he's not just kind of born nasty. It's like, they've
Or
gone through a process to get to being
baby
nasty.
steps that they've made, choices they've made that have led them to these moments. Actually, in the book that releases in May, I don't often give the bad guy's perspective, but in this one I
Yeah.
did because it needed to be part of the story.
So that begs the
The
opens the
question.
platform to tell us about
So-
this book.
Shipwrecked Faith. It's the hero in the story is Irish immigrant. And at the time of the story, it's the Irish mob was trying to step into the vacuum, like was fighting with the Italian mob, which had the control of Chicago. And the Italian mob wasn't coordinated enough yet. But the St. Valentine's Day Massacre I mentioned earlier was like these two clashing. Anyway, that happened in early 1929. And then the stock market crashed at the end of 1929. So talk about that in a little bit. But Kellen, my hero, lost his parents and was taken in by his older cousin, who's part of the Irish mob. And I give this cousin's perspective because the choices Kellen makes, the cousin feels betrayed. And in Irish and Italian mob situations like those, betraying family is a deeper betrayal than, one of the random runners on the street, like that they use selling them out. Like family doesn't betray family no matter what. And that's the choice Kellen made. So from Tiernan's perspective, like Kellen made a grievous error, and that's why Kellen has to pay for it. Granted, from our perspective, Kellen's a hero. Because he actually, served up evidence to put his cousin in jail for really bad things. But from Tiernan's perspective, family just betrayed him, and that's not acceptable. So you have this bad guy who thinks he's not a bad guy. And there's another quote that I love. It's the villain is always a hero in his own story. The choices he makes aren't good ones, but he's still a hero in his own story.
Yeah, that's very good.
So, the book that you've got there,
it's a first in a new series. It's actually published by Ashbury Lane, a part of Whitefire Publishing Group. They're my cover designer is Rosanna White, whose books I absolutely love. And she owns her own publishing company. And her editor reached out recently and was like, "Hey, you got a story laying around somewhere that you feel like submitting?" "Yes, I do actually." And it turned into a whole trilogy.
Wow.
So I just actually finished writing book 3
Oh,
for
well
it.
done.
So yay! But yeah, so this one follows 3 sisters, the Dawning sisters, and each sister gets their own book. So one of my favorite research tools is to look at old newspapers because you just get a sense of what's happening and what people care about. Like
Yeah.
what are the headlines?
Yeah.
And because local papers then were the social media of the time,
Yeah.
it's the social
Yes.
columns. Fascinating.
Yeah.
So the headlines in southern Wisconsin, again on the day of the stock market crash, weren't
Yeah.
about stock market crash at all. And it was off to the corner. I think it might have even been below the fold. Like the big
Yeah.
headline was the fact that there was a shipwreck and people died and the Coast Guard had to go out and rescue them. And then as the days went on, the Coast Guard gets medals. And I'm like, what is the shipwreck that usurped what we
Yeah.
think of as the worst day in American history? Like,
Yeah.
what happened? Well, it turned out to be the SS Wisconsin right there.
Okay.
The SS Wisconsin left port on late on the 28th out of Chicago, and the captain knew there was a big storm coming. There was a ship that sank a few days earlier because of a big storm on Lake Michigan, but the captain thought the ship has made it through hundreds of storms. We can do it. I think we'll be fine. We got to make this delivery. It wasn't a passenger. It was a freighter. And so they left port. And round about just before dawn, they took on water. So set down anchor to try to weather the storm, started taking on water and it affected the boilers. So they couldn't raise anchor. And so they
Yeah.
had to shut the boiler room off. And the ship just took on water and floundered and sank just about
Wow.
dawn that day. 9 people, I think, 9 to 13. The estimates are a little like depends on who you look at to see what the
Yeah.
actual estimate is of how many died. But 9 was like the minimum number, including the captain. The captain made it to shore alive and died on the dock, actually.
Oh my
gosh.
The waves were like 10 to 20 feet high. And
Oh.
when I say a lake, like this is
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like
you
the
know,
ocean. Yeah.
Yes. So, and it's October. And if you know the song by Gordon Lightfoot about the Edmund Fitzgerald and talked about like, it's that same concept of like the waves just crash over and break a ship apart. And
Yeah.
November is the most dangerous time in shipping on the Great Lakes because
Okay.
these storms just come out of nowhere and they just
Yeah.
so there were like 2 to 3 shipwrecks in that week in
Sure.
Lake Michigan, and they were like big shipwrecks. So anyway, so again, the what if, I'm intrigued. And at
Yeah.
the time, it was again during 2020 at the time when this story idea started. And UW, that's University of Wisconsin at Madison, was doing free virtual classes just for people. And they happened to be doing a class on shipwrecks, in particular the SS Wisconsin shipwreck,
What?
Oh, sure.
because they found it and they've done scuba
Oh, yeah.
excavation. So
Exploration.
so they showed video of the actual shipwreck of a scuba diver going down and looking. I'm like, okay,
Sure.
this story has to get written because I'm
Yeah,
literally
yeah.
looking at the ship. Like, so I took like notes and notes in this class, and then
Yeah.
all the like testimonials, like people watched it sink from shore. It was that close. Like
Sure.
it was about 5 miles offshore. They watched it go down, but they couldn't get out to save the ship because
Yeah.
the waves were too high for everyone else. So that's why the Coast Guard, like the fact that they even made it to the ship at all and saved anybody was a big deal. And there was
Yeah.
a fishing boat that managed to get out there too. That was it. No one else could get out there.
Sure.
So real historical event. And I'm like, this has to be a
Yeah.
story. So I managed to find a way to get my hero and heroine on the boat, which again,
Oh,
is
well
not a
done.
passenger boat. So that took some
Yeah. Yeah. It's based on fact, but it's fiction. It's fine.
Yeah.
So that book's coming out.
May 5th.
Okay, and then I'm guessing then the second one's coming out pretty soon afterwards if you're already onto your third book.
December, mid-December.
December.
And then the third one will be out August of the following year. So,
Right.
Oh, fantastic.
yeah.
So we will put a link up
Oh, that'd be great.
for your websites and
Perfect.
stuff, and everyone knows to follow your newsletter now, so we can like hang
Yeah.
out with your dog.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And of course, we want to hang out with you too, but
Yeah.
Yes.
the dog has it.
Always. Always.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you so much
you're
for
very
chatting with
welcome.
us today, Danielle. It's been so fascinating hearing more about you
Yeah.
and your
Thank you.
writing, and
It's fun
yeah,
to
it's
talk
just
about.
this like amazing history that you get to write from.
Thank
That's really
you.
cool.
I'm
Keep
glad.
loving writing because we love reading.
Yes. Well, like I said,
Yeah.
a lot more stories.
Yeah. That's great.
Okay then. Well, bye just now,
Yes.
and
Bye, everyone.
take care.
Bye.
Thanks so much for joining us today, and we can't wait to chat with you again soon. So get your cuppas ready and come and join us.